soon, or is it way down the road? It's first.
Yeah, I'll have to see what to do. Yeah, so excited for her. She's worked hard.
Is that railroad thing? State Street, yeah.
Just leave it on.
Yep.
No loading.
All right, at 6 o'clock, I will call the Streets and Sidewalks Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda this evening is another discussion regarding the Day Street Railroad crossing. I know since we had this conversation a month ago, many of the council members, myself, have reached out to residents in the area requesting their opinions, their thoughts, their concerns in regard to that, so we can make a decision based on what the residents want, what's best for them, not so much what's best for the railroad in this situation, because you guys are the ones that live there and have to deal with this inconvenience, convenience, whatever you think it is. So we're just going to continue that discussion tonight. And at this point, I can say that the overwhelming majority of people that I've spoke to, the other council members have spoke to at this time are not in favor of having that crossing closed. That being said, we will still be happy to listen to anybody's comments that they have this evening to either support that decision or that idea, that thought, or if there's people that still think that it should be closed, we would be happy to hear from them as well at this time before we make our final decision. So at this time, if there's anybody out there that would like to speak on that, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address, and go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. John Moore, I live at 517 Day Street, which is 4 houses down from the railroad crossing. A lot of concern there because I don't know if everybody did their homework real good with it or not, but you sent out these letters and we got a week after the meeting occurred. And they sent another letter out to us and put the wrong date on there. They're telling me it's just coming Friday is when the meeting's at. But then you send out, like I said, I have them. You give me all the councilmen's names and phone numbers. So I try to call them. I think all of you heard from me over the weekend at least. Some called me back, some didn't. I'm not going to point out who didn't call. They know who they are. But to me, I mean, it's just a little common courtesy. If the residents call you, they should at least get a phone call back. It'd be my thought. I mean, I don't know. And some of the concerns we have, because Saturday I went out and talked to people, invited them up here tonight, went down Central. I'll say 99% of the people I talked to, they're not in favor of it at all. So, I mean, I talked to a few of the council people who said, well, there's people that really want to do that. I didn't talk to them. I don't know who they are. You know, some of our main concerns down there is a turnaround. And you got to either take somebody's property or buy it from them in order to get that. And if they want to close a crossing, all I got to do is go down to Diamond Street. Portage County engineers used to own that property there. They packed up and moved out. You know, and as far as the emergency, you know, the fire trucks coming down there, EMS. Of course, I understand we have a fire hydrant that doesn't work too good down there now. And I drive around a lot, and there's a lot of these other cities that flush the hydrants every year. They got big signs up, from this date to that date, they're gonna be flushing the hydrants. I've never seen that in Rio Valley. Unless they're coming out after midnight or so to flush them.
It's being done by the fire department, and they've all been flush. And they're scheduled to start up here shortly again. This was a problem. You're correct. This was a
Well, yeah,
problem.
'cause I've never seen a sign saying they're gonna flush hydrants from this date to this date.
Well,
I mean,
our firemen are doing the flushing.
well, I think they're doing a great job because when they come down, and I had a neighbor 2 doors down from me, EMS was down there at least a couple times a week. Sometimes the fire truck come with them. You know,
They have to work around that. That's why we don't have a set schedule. Their first responsibility is caring for the people that call in and need help.
we had people call them in there, that was, 10, 11 o'clock at night though. I don't know how busy you are out there, but I'm sure you're not every day. You can't get a couple guys to go out and flush the hydrants.
We've done it. He's done that, and it's scheduled to be done now.
We scheduled now from April to October to do the 12 different zones in the city. And the zones are set up, it's not like 1 through 12. It varies because we try to get from the outside perimeter of the city and flush inward. That's how the service department wants us to do it. So we don't have a specific date or signage that goes up, but we call the service department, talk to the secretary in our water distribution center, let them know what date, what time, and what zone we're gonna be in, which involves what roads. We have it all mapped out. So in one aspect, you're actually correct, that we don't put signs on the road saying we're flushing this area this week, because we're not sure what area we're gonna be in, and how often and how many we get done. But all the hydrants in the city have been flushed for at least the last 5 to 8 years on an annual basis.
So that one on Day Street, about 60 yards up from my house, works.
Off the top of my head, I don't know, because there's different hydrants in the city that provide different pressure based on those, how large the main is that's feeding it. Some of them are 6-inch mains, some of them are 12-inch mains, so depending on the diameter of what's feeding that line, some hydrants can give you up 1,200 gallons per minute of water, some will give you about 400 gallons per minute. So off the top of my head, I wouldn't know, but I could have access to find out how well that specific hydrant is to you.
There was several years ago, there was a house up towards Lincoln on the west side, burned down. And I heard the fire department had to go to get water. They couldn't get it right there close by. They had to go somewhere else in the city to get the water.
If I could, that's a very important conversation, and one that we probably need to have.
Yeah,
But
that's getting off the base here, we're talking about closing the road, but here again,
Yeah.
accessibility for the fire department, if they gotta come down Day Street, if they gotta go down Chestnut and Lincoln, come around.
It will
go and
add-
Turn around, and come back. I mean,
Yeah, it will add response time to that.
another thing, as far as if you close the road, okay, we're gonna make it a dead-end street, what's that do to our taxes?
What's it do to?
Property tax. And as
All
far as,
great points.
I would assume somebody would know that before they decide to, let's just close this road. No, bad idea, I think. Because there are school buses come down through there, trash pickup, recycle. And there's a lot of people on that street that do recycle, because the recycle truck comes down one side, goes back the other. So, yeah. So as far as property values, and here again, if you're gonna mail stuff out to us, I would think, let's make it proper. Make sure it's right before you mail it out.
Absolutely.
And make sure it gets to us if you're gonna mail. Everybody should know how the mail works, and it's slow.
We
I heard
mailed,
it's gotta go to Cleveland before it comes back to get.
all of these from Day Street came back to my office, undeliverable. I don't know why. I didn't go to the post office yet. I'm going to. I just got back from vacation. I'll go to the post office and ask why. And if there's a different way that we should be mailing these.
Well, yeah, 'cause you
There's
say, well,
15, there's 15 of them. And we mailed 24. Don't know why. And some of them were mailed because they're rental properties. We mailed to the owner and the resident. Not sure if that's why the post office didn't deliver them. Some of these are vacant. They show vacant. Some of them are no such number. got the information off the county auditor's
Yeah,
website.
see, I don't know why either, they didn't give, you know.
I can't tell you why.
I got mine, because like I said, the one letter was a week late. The next one had the wrong date on it.
You know, I don't know.
And then the third letter finally shows up.
I don't know who even mailed those out. I knew who mailed the one the letter that went out with their phone numbers, I mailed. That came from my office. The other ones, I don't know where they came from.
Somebody should check their spell check before they, make sure they got all the dates proper. Too, you know. And I got the one that was supposed to, this coming Friday is the meeting. So I got a hold of Paul, and he said, that's the 10th. Yeah. Yeah, as far as for my thought of it, no, we don't want it. That road's been open for over 100 years. I've lived over there probably over 45. To close the road, I don't see it. I don't see an advantage to anybody except the railroad. Because if you do the turnaround, who buys that property? We? Or is the railroad gonna buy her property too?
Those are all good questions.
You know,
The
who's
first
gonna
step
put
with
who's gonna put the turnaround in?
The first step with this whole process is do we move forward to ask those questions, or do we stop it right now? And it sounds like council's gonna make a decision to stop it, and we're not gonna talk about this again.
Well, I would assume that the railroad would have a little more input with you as far as.
I believe that's what city council would expect. The city should not incur any costs.
Well, that's what the one letter said. You know, it's $160,000 and it won't cost us nothing. But we're gonna take this person's property and we've gotta put a turnaround in there. And yeah, no, I don't understand that. So, I say that pretty much is all I'm, you know, I'll turn it over to whoever else here then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
I don't know, it'll be my property taken.
Would you state your name and address, please?
Barbara Witchy, 510 Day Street.
Thank you.
It'll be my property taken. This is not a right-of-way. This is going to have to be permanent. This is going to have to be asphalt. So you're going to have to put down asphalt. You're going to have to do surveying. You're going to have to buy me out. And you're going to have to put in a new drainage system, since the drainage system on that block is bad anyhow. None of it hits the drains. It should be looked at by the city now. The drain that's supposed to be there is down by Chestnut and 3 inches above the little creek that's there. And there's a little creek that everything comes into, and an open drain from Central that comes into that and drains out into the open drain behind the factory there. So you're gonna have to put in a drainage system also. So all this needs to be taken into consideration of what it's going to cost the city to do this. Then you're gonna have to put up a rail between both sides of the tracks to keep incoming cars from attempting to even cross. Because an up and down bar is not blocking it off as a dead end. So the guardrail's going to cost. So there's a lot more cost going into this than anybody's even considered. It's not a cut and dry thing. So thank you, and consider it a lot more, because I'm sure I forgot a lot of stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Soto 464 Woodland Street. I'd like to make sure the record shows that the railroad or the PUCO wasn't here again. PUCO was the last time, but the railroad hasn't been here now. He's had 2 chances. So it's quite clear in my mind what they're trying to accomplish here. They just don't want to pay money to upgrade their crossing. I did some research on that and talked to someone that is actually worked on the railroad. He's also an official in the county. And I asked him about this. Well, if we're going to, if we give up that and cross that off, we won't charge you to upgrade your other crossings. never, never do we update and have to pay for anything to upgrade anything. If anything, if we think they're unsafe, it is our job to go to the PUCO and tell them we don't have a safe crossing. So that thing, that story that they were giving us is wrong from the beginning. That's basically it. I walked and talked to some people too. I didn't get anybody that was positive. I had one on the fence, but everybody was negative on it. So I'd appreciate it if you guys take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else that like?
Hi, I'm Bonnie Schubert. I live at 515 Day Street. I live across the street where you are proposing to take the land. And we do have a lot of concerns. I mean, if people have gatherings and they have extra people, they always park right down there on the street facing the right way. If they're coming around the cul-de-sac, where are these cars gonna park? Are they gonna get smashed? If somebody's gonna come around too far? And I think not only the railing, I think it needs to go around her yard so nobody flies off the roundabout and goes right into her house. And then all the lights from the traffic at night and early in the morning. I mean, we got the garbage trucks come super early in the morning. They're gonna turn around, put their lights straight into her house. You know, and anything that happens, you know, in the night. You know, I don't think that's right for her to have to live like that. Not only the noise and her privacy being taken away, but she's also gonna have all these light school buses early in the morning. And there is a special needs girl, the first house across the street, and the bus has to pick her up. You know, so that bus is gonna have to go around. You know, and then that's an inconvenience for that bus, because if they got a kid over the tracks to pick up, they're gonna have to go around, go all the way around, change the route. You know, so I just think it's not thought through at all. I just, you know, don't see it working out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sure.
Two more cents I'm going to throw into it. John Moore, 517 Day Street. Now, I've heard talk about, well, younger people jumping over the tracks and doing damage to the property. Well, I've been there, like I said, 45 years or so. I can think of 3 times that's happened. I agree, yeah, they come down the road a little fast. But here again, we have the policeman here now. If they want to come sit in my driveway, they're more than welcome. And if you catch 2 or 3 of them doing that, maybe word will get around that you better not jump the tracks on Day Street, because police are going to be there. So, closing the road, I don't see where, because they're still going to try to jump it, and now they get up there and the road's closed. Oh shit, now what do we do? It's going to be a worse accident than if they jump the tracks.
Right.
So, yes, if you'd like to come down and set my driveway, 517, my daughter-in-law is a dispatcher for you. Come on down.
Okay, Mr. Moore, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Dennis Waters, 354 Day Street. And the elevation on the street there, I live on the south side of the tracks. It's a low elevation. If you ride a bike around the Ravenna, you'll find out you don't have to pedal. Certain places you go in Ravenna to get back home. Anyways, I was wondering if they do anything with the storms, if they change the elevations and stuff when they turn around in and so forth. And plus, there was mentioning widening the streets because of the blocking of the tracks and so forth. So I wondered if elevations and the storms for us flooding and so forth.
I think originally those were all would have been considerations if we were going to move forward with the project. I think at this point, it doesn't look like we'll move forward with that project. We'll allow the the railroad to do that. But if there are other issues, other concerns, we can have those conversations if you think there's other things we need to take a look at.
Because we tried the storms to that ditch there on the other side of the tracks. I think it might take care of the storm flooding problem. But
Okay, well, thank you.
Man right over there, so he can keep notes of that, our engineering department, so, thank you.
Take care of that.
Do we not have storm drains down there?
So if there's no one else at this time, I'll just say, on my behalf, at this point, as the chairman of Streets and Sidewalks, I would not be in favor of moving forward with this project. But I will turn it over to, I know it's not committee of the whole, but I will allow, I mean, if anybody else wants to speak on this or has a different opinion or supports that perspective, I think the other council members or administration, anybody at that time, can speak on this time, and we can go from there, I think, so.
Matt?
I'll just say that there are some residents that weren't able to make it today. They had commented to me directly, not messaging, but directly, that they were against this being closed.
And I'm going to say, as everyone, a lot of people know, I grew up on that street. There's a lot of hardworking people on that street, and I know the street sticks together, and you guys are a very strong neighborhood street. And I could see where it definitely would cause issues on that street, and I don't support it, nor would I vote for it if it did go forward. So I agree with you.
And Matt, I'll just say, as part of the committee, I have received nothing but emails and phone calls against the project. And at this time, I'm with you. I'm inclined to not vote for it.
I'm not on the committee, but I did go door knock and talk to residents, and I did not talk to anyone that was in favor of it, so.
I want to add, when we went door knocking, John, if you need somebody to blame on the typo, as president of council, you can blame me on that. But we were out. We knocked on your door, and I knocked on your door purposely because we were trying to get a hold of you. But you should have talked to Paul. We didn't leave you a letter, and a lot of the residents on Day Street, because you already got 3 from us. But the goal was to get out and talk to people. I don't think, and I'll echo what everybody's already said, that I wasn't in favor of it. And the goal was to get feedback to see if there was anybody for it, because we didn't hear. There was one individual at the first meeting that was here who was kind of on the fence about it. And the railroad, I think they dangled the carrot or the conversation that maybe they'll pay for the cul-de-sac, and then we heard recently that they wouldn't. So I think that conversation had changed. You know, that the cost would be more on the city side, and then the conversations were the domino of, you'd have to turn from Day Street on the north to Central, and then would you have to turn on the light? What's the cost of the light? So there's a lot of questions that still had to be asked and answered. We didn't even get to that point. We were just trying to get the feedback. So I think where we're sitting, it's from council reaching out to residents the best way we can to make sure we're getting the feedback from you on this particular issue. So I just want to say thanks for coming in and speaking on this and speaking to us about this. So.
And I'll just say that I'm not for blocking that where the railroad tracks are myself.
So it seems clear we're not really going to pursue this idea, but I hope that the Public Utilities Commission does upgrade Chestnut. From the beginning, my biggest question is, why does it have to be a trade-off? I mean, if Chestnut needs to be upgraded, it should be upgraded, period. I don't know why closing Day Street was part of the calculus. So I hope, since they put it out there, that they were planning on improving that crossing, that they continue to do so. And I'd be ashamed if they said, well, since you didn't close the street, we're not going to upgrade, that crossing. I think that would be a bad decision for them to make.
Very good, thank you. So I think it's pretty clear at this time that we'll reach out to the railroad, let them know that this project is not going to move forward, and kind of put this issue behind us, so, you okay with it? Okay. Excellent. Oh,
What can we do in retaliation of the railroad saying no?
No to.
No to what?
Not doing anything, not maintaining,
Oh.
I believe they probably have a certain criteria for a crossing for upgrades. I don't know exactly what those are, but if they find a crossing to be
Unsafe?
insufficient, unsafe, it is their responsibility to make those upgrades, not the city's. So we'll just have to figure out why they deem it unsafe, or if they do, and then work with them to get that upgraded. Because that is a busy crossing with pedestrians, bikes, and vehicles. So,
I'm hoping the railroads overall will have some tighter things come over them with, tighter rules, with everything going on lately. So hopefully maybe we'll see more involvement.
Well, that's the thing with that railroad there. There's about 3 trains a day. There's about 3 or 4 cars.
maximum.
You know, so close the road flat. For that 3 trains.
and just so you guys know, this was brought to us. This isn't something that city council proposed. This was proposed by the railroad. That's why we were so diligent in reaching out to everybody, not making any fast decisions, talking to all the residents before any decisions were made. Because like I said at the beginning, that's your road, that's your neighborhood, and if you don't feel it's a worthwhile cause, we're not gonna move forward with it.
Like she's saying though, they are expanding railroad use, and they do want to go faster with more cars and chemicals, and so maybe it does need an upgrading and looked at. So do we need to petition, do we need to write our congressman, our senators? Do
And
we
that
need to
never
make a
hurts,
move?
that never hurts. There's still speed limits within the city for the trains, so they're not gonna go through that section of town like they do on the south side of town with the big
Correct.
crossings. So
Yes.
there's still speed limits that they'll have to speeds that they'll have to maintain to operate safely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Is there anything else at this time? If not, we'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. Thank you, everybody. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the annual paving contract. This is the second time it went out for bid. I believe we were within the range this time. Did we have to drop any of the projects?
No,
We did not.
no, we did not. We bid an alternate, and the alternate
Oh,
is Lawrence Street resurfacing. Board of Control has not met yet. We will meet tomorrow to award. Carvo is listed as the low bidder. We had 2 return bids, Carvo and Perrin. They were very competitive bids. But Board of Control hasn't met yet. We'll meet tomorrow. We'll discuss the alternate to make sure the Board of Control wants to award that, and then we'll move forward from there. But by the end of tomorrow, I'm not sure when we're gonna meet yet, but by the end of the day tomorrow, Board of Control will have met, and we will have awarded it to one of these 2. We've used Carvo in the past, just as we've used Perrin.
so this seems significantly lower than the first round of bids that came back.
A little bit, yes. We had 1 return bid on our first advertisement. The second sheet, the single sheet, shows how we break the project out from paving, water, sewer, and storm. So the total dollar amount is not all from the annual paving budget. or the paving levy, as you will.
Does anybody else from the committee have any questions on the new bids?
I don't.
No.
Okay, so we're okay to go ahead and move this forward. And then the next item on the agenda is the police garage parking lot and the cemetery paving. I saw some information from your assistant, but if you could explain how the alternate with this works, I think you could probably explain that a little better, that if we don't have to accept the cemetery bid, if it comes in above, we can take that out without any, did he?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the way the way we will advertise, we have a set amount to resurface the police department on Spruce Avenue, the motor pools parking lot. If the prices come in better, then we obviously want to continue to do the work. So we bid alternates, and it's the same thing with the cemetery. The cemetery has given us a dollar figure not to exceed.
Right, right.
And with alternates, we can pick and choose, so the cemetery would have, if that item came, the price of that item was $4,000 more, the cemetery would have the ability to still accept it, or not accept it.
It's within the contingency,
Correct.
so. Does everybody understand that? A little bit? So if the cemetery, the two projects were grouped together to try and receive a better rate. If the cemetery's portion, which the cemetery is paying, not the city, comes in over budget, we can exclude that from this, and the rest of the project can still go on. Yes?
The only question I have about that is the township paying their half of the paving of that because it comes out of the budget from the cemetery?
This is
Would that be half of it?
Almost
Basically,
half.
it's always
Their
half.
proportion.
Their proportion, it's like,
Well, their proportion.
They're
okay.
very close.
Yeah.
Okay, I
45%,
didn't hear that. Yeah, I thought that was the case, and I just wanted to clarify if that's.
yeah, it's the combined pool of money.
Right,
Yes.
because they watch the budget out there very good. and-
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that we're not paying all of it.
No, you're correct. No.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding this? And this is just to go out to bid, correct?
Correct, authorize the mayor to
Authorize.
advertise.
If there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and move this item forward as well. Mayor, do you have a management update for streets and sidewalks?
Not tonight.
Not tonight? Okay. It is 6:34, and I will adjourn the Streets and Sidewalks Committee meeting. Thank you.
At 6:34, we'll start the Utility Committee meeting. First thing on the agenda is the gas aggregation agreement. It is suggested to go for 1 year, and the reason is for a 1-year guarantee would be 409 for MCF, 2 years would be 448, 3 years would be 472. The reason it was come up with 409 and suggested to go that direction is because of the extremely warm winter that we have had. Well, and one of the extremely warm for sometimes this time of this part of the state anyway. And sometimes when you have a warm winter, not much snow. Sometimes the next one is colder, but there are no guarantees. So it is suggested for a 1-year contract, and this would not take effect until October 1st. The reason this is being brought up now, that way it can be okayed on one of those threes, like I said, suggested of 1 year. That way, it doesn't have to be discussed, as an example, in August and to say, hurry up and make a decision. That way it can be done early and it's over with and it's finished.
So
I'd like to-
our current agreement was only a year?
No, the last one was 2 years.
And didn't we just do it last October?
That was electric.
No, I thought we did.
I thought it was last year.
That's what I was trying to find.
Because this says amendment. Why does it say fifth amendment? Why doesn't it just say renewal of contract?
Do you have any,
Well, there-
Bob walked down. I was looking at
Yeah, what
We're
about?
using the word amendment instead of agreement. Let's,
So it's October when we typically,
when it would start.
I'm just looking to see if
I thought it was electric.
we voted on it last year or the year
Yeah,
before.
I thought it was electric.
Well,
I know we spoke with NOPEC back in 2021.
Was that 2021?
for the gas aggregate.
Oh, okay. All right, well then I guess it is up for renewal then.
Because it was 2 years, so
Yeah,
if it's agreed on for 1 year, then come back again next year.
yeah, it's always it's a gamble, right? I mean, I remember
Yeah,
we
it's a
discussed
coin
this.
flip.
Well, I don't know if it's a coin
What-
flip, but it's, last time we were told to wait, and instead of getting a better deal, we got a worse deal. So, but
Cliff
I.
has some comments or a statement.
If I
Oh, I'm sorry.
remember correctly, wasn't it last year about this time that we invited NOPEC
It's
to
2021.
talk about
2021.
this? Was it electric or was it about gas? It was about gas.
It was about gas.
It was about gas, and because we had already, or no, it had been, that was 2 years ago then.
Yes.
Yes.
Because we had already signed the contract and we couldn't deal with it.
Right.
Okay, so basically that was a 2-year deal, and that's why we're going through to October. My question to that is with the risk, what's happened with NOPEC, there's been some nightmares with their electric anyway, and I'm not sure about the gas the same way. We're not asking them to come in and give us an estimate what they could get it for, or we're only going with the one? I'm okay with going with the one.
They abandon their customers.
I agree, I don't want them, but I just got something today, I have some property in Ridgetown, and Ridgetown just signed up for them for their electric, and I'm a little nervous about that, and knowing what kind of history, but I just didn't know if maybe that was.
I got the same letter for the farm.
Yeah, because outside,
Yeah.
but I guess this is the best way to go, but as I remembered, it was time flies, that was 2
Yeah, yeah, it
Yes,
seems like
it
it was
does.
just last year.
It goes
I thought it was
fast.
last year
Me
too.
too.
Yeah.
Me too.
But you're saying this would be a one-year agreement?
That's what's highly suggested
On the second page at the
for
bottom,
1 year at 409.
What's on the second page?
on the tracking sheet, you should have the additional detail. Yeah.
Oh, the bottom of the track? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I see it.
It's almost at the very bottom.
12, oh, so it's an option.
Yes. It's suggested for 1 year because
Right, it's a lower rate.
What's our MCF now?
3.7.
It's 3, yeah. Just getting squeezed and
Yeah.
nickel and diming us upwards.
Well, I'm surprised that this 409 isn't much higher.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The only reason I'm saying that is about anything we've purchased in the last approximate couple of years is, most things have increased quite a bit.
Sorry, I was looking.
So there are any comments pertaining to this?
Mayor, can we just get confirmation with Kay or did you speak with Kay that the 1 year is what she's
Yes,
suggesting?
yes,
Okay,
that's
I'm
right.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Received
Okay.
this, she handed me this paper.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
The trade-off there is if they take huge jumps.
Yep.
uh,
Or huge
and-
decrease.
It's Kind of like all the gambling you see on television anymore, on trying to guess out where this is going to go, but it rarely comes down.
Yeah, it is a coin flip which way it'll go this fall or next year, whatever.
I'm not making a case for going farther, but it's part of, I think, as we look at this, we have some time to look at it.
Yeah, and that's my point.
With that, and aim for our best deal.
Yeah. So are there any, Christina,
No.
share what your
Just
thoughts?
continue to discuss it.
Continue.
Okay, for
Next week.
okay. We'll keep this going, so we have one more on the agenda. And that's a sewer lateral problem on Diamond Street, where it's
Diamond Street or Main Street?
Diamond.
Where do we have the minutes for Main Street?
That was an old meeting we did a couple years ago,
Yeah, I remember that meeting,
So I-
that was Main Street.
right? And I
Oh, this is
believe
a
that was a
different issue?
storm line, not a sewer line as well.
Okay.
So this is where we have 3 properties, and the laterals are connected, and then it only goes into the main once, where each property should have its own lateral going into the main, and it's not happening in this situation. And it's been backing up several times. So the homeowner has had to pay out of their pocket to have this taken care of, because when this was originally done, it was way before the ordinance was passed. What I'm getting at, this could have been 80, 100 years ago when these properties were built.
So was it a single-family home when it was done and then converted to an investment property after, is it because it's a multifamily and it was meant for a single-family home?
No.
No, not at all, not in the
It
least.
has been multifamily for years, for at least 30 years.
Okay, I didn't know
was-
if that caused a problem of
No.
being in a rental property.
The
That was an
problem
issue.
is that there's three residential units tied together before they tie into the main, before they're connected to the main. The middle unit has a root ball that is blocking the laterals. So the end resident is getting the backup from all 3 sewers backing up into their basement. And every time that they have their lines cameraed or cleaned out, there's not an issue from their basement to where they're connected to the next door property. The root ball is in front of the next door property. The tree that was causing the root ball was a tree that was on the tree lawn, and Kay had the tree removed, but the root ball's still there. The property that is next door says, sewer's not backing up into my basement. I don't care. Not my problem. But it is, because the problem's on his property. But the real issue is that all 3 are illegally tied into the main. Each one should be individually tied in. Each one needs to have their property excavated and connected to the main individually, so then they can follow the ordinance and be responsible for what is from their property out to the main. But at this point, 203 cannot be responsible for what 207 or 211 refuses to do, and continue for the last 4 weeks has had to have companies come out and clean out their sewer out of their basement for health reasons. I just think, this is a problem that we've inherited from probably 80 to 100 years ago.
Yes.
And I am in total agreement with the ordinance in a typical situation. I just think that council needs to know the background information on this exception situation and make a vote. I personally am abstaining from the vote, because I listed the property, therefore I sold the property. The previous owner had camera work done by Mays and Sons. We forwarded the camera and video and report to Mr. Finney in August. I'm not sure, did you ever actually go out and see what the markings were that Mays put out there for where the problem was back then?
It was, their lateral was the problem. What I saw from the video
It
was
wasn't
lateral.
Diamond, it wasn't 203s though, it was 207s.
There was a lateral.
The report that was sent to you said that the root blockage was in front of 207, and that's the same tree that Kay had removed a couple weeks ago. Okay, so.
But a tree will not enter a sanitary sewer pipe unless the sewer pipe was cracked. Tree roots do not dive into a sewer pipe unless it's deficient.
But the main issue isn't the fact that there was a crack, I mean, there is a crack, obviously, in front of 207, but the sewer's backing up into 203. 203 can't be responsible for 207's actions, so therefore, all three properties should have been notified at this point in time that there's an issue and that they're not connected appropriately, and they need to be connected appropriately.
No.
No?
Well, that would not be our responsibility to do that, not the city's responsibility.
Even though it was done,
Well, yeah, we're not going to tell every single resident to fix a mistake from 100 years ago to meet the code. You know,
So what do you do about
They have a problem.
sewer
They have-
backing up
They have
and?
to solve it. They have to solve it among themselves. The city can't, we're not going to get involved. If there's a tree that overhangs a property line, we don't get involved. It's the resident's
But we went out and removed the
responsibility.
tree that caused the root ball. So therefore, we are admitting that it was the city tree that caused the root ball
The tree.
that clogged the line that's causing the sewer backup.
Yeah, the tree roots evidently got into this deficient sewer pipe. If the sewer pipe
Of
wasn't
a different
deficient-
property that's getting the backup.
Yeah.
But, so in the packet, we have this, a meeting minutes, I don't remember.
Because we've previously helped other
That's what I was going to
residents.
say, so we have stepped in and helped before.
That's a different situation.
Oh, was it, well,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not reading it, so I don't.
So then in
That's what I'm trying to
Mr.
understand,
Skilton
the
a couple
differences.
years ago
Right.
had he was having work done to his property, and his plumber found a broken pipe at the street.
So it was our
And
responsibility.
it was determined that when we widened the street in 2007, it showed up as an issue 13 years later. So city council decided to make a connection into that catch basin and provide him a connection to connect to, and he did.
And what was the situation out on, just in the last couple of years, the Stemple property?
So the Stemple property, there's certain things that I cannot discuss because we're placed under gag order from lawsuit. However, what I will say was the seller did not disclose to the buyer that they knew there was problems with their sewer. So the new owner hired a contractor, they dug up the street, and they determined that it was a problem with their lateral. They hired a lawyer, they sued the Stemples, and the Stemples lawyer named the city of Ravenna as the secondary as the suit.
Okay.
So then our insurance company stepped in and our insurance company hired a lawyer to handle the situation.
Okay.
And in the end, it was a pretty good chunk of money that was paid to the new owner.
Is there a reason that chapter 1070 point of sale inspections is in our packet?
I didn't do it.
Well, and I can say, as a Realtor, nobody's aware that the city of Ravenna offers a point of sale inspection for sewer and storm lines. Other communities that offer this service, the jurisdiction typically sends a copy of their application form as well as the ordinance to the local boards of realtors that cover the area. And that way it notifies them, if you have someone selling a property, this is an option in our community. And I have not spoken to anybody that was aware, including myself, until I saw this come through, that we had a point of sale inspection that was an option to buyers of homes in the city on the city's expense.
Wouldn't that be the realtors, like, I would think to look up in that city to see
You
what they
can't-
have available?
No, it's a buyer's due diligence. I can't look into zoning. I can't, as a realtor, I can't look in, that is the buyer's due diligence. Because if I get misinformation and I pass it on to a client, then it's up to them to do their own due diligence when they're purchasing a property. But I can show you City of Cuyahoga Falls, Green, Monroe Falls, the different forms that they provide to the Akron-Cleveland Board of Realtors, previously the Portage Area Board of Realtors, where they have different inspections and different things that we fill out. It's part of the package.
I would move to remove this whole section, if I could.
Has anybody ever requested?
No. We get, over the years.
Because he knows about it.
Well, that's not true.
You knew, somebody.
Over the years, I've had realtors call me and ask me if it's mandatory, if we have a point of
It's not
sale.
mandatory.
And I state, it's not mandatory. And as a matter of fact, I remember when this was written in 2010, I was against it because we don't have the staff to do this stuff. We don't have cameras to camera lines. The extent of our inspection, when Dave Merlino was the service director, the intent was to alleviate groundwater from entering the sanitary sewer. It was an I&I reduction. So the extent was, and I know it had been done a couple times when Denny Dillon was assistant street department. He would flush dye down a toilet and make sure it came out the manhole. He would also, he would ask for us to provide records of any laterals that we had. Certain streets we have records, certain streets we don't. In the past, they would do smoke testing, which they basically blow smoke in a sewer and watch it come out of the downspout or gutters, something like that. If it comes up in the middle of somebody's house, might be a problem. But that's the extent. We weren't cameraing a lateral. A camera can only go in a large lateral, 8-inch, or not lateral, main line. We couldn't be the cause of breaking a lateral because we pushed a camera too hard. There's just, so it wouldn't have caught this issue on Diamond Street.
So what is the request, that the city pay to fix this?
That's the request because of there's more than one lateral going together before it goes into the main. That's the request, and to our knowledge, we don't know if there are other places in the distribution system with the same problem or not.
May I ask a question of who's making the request for it to be paid? Is it just the resident, or is it, if you're saying that someone's requesting that it be paid, who is requesting that it be paid?
Well, to my knowledge, it would either, well, some of those are rental properties, so I can't say for sure if it's the renter or would be the landlord or owner.
Nobody has specifically asked for the city to pay for it to be done. They're asking for the city to help. How do we do that? How can we rectify the situation? Can the city notify the other properties and get everybody to correct their stuff to what it should be? Can the city maybe waive their own connection and permit fees,
Referred to as a tap-in.
you know, for these properties? That's what's being asked, is how can the city help? How, they are asking just, how can the city help? This is a health and safety concern with raw sewage backing up once a week for the last 4 weeks. They just want help. The neighbors, the owner of the property, and the neighboring property are not seeing eye to eye. The neighboring property where the blockage is saying, not my problem, it's not coming into my basement. So the other unit is saying, what can I do? Can anybody help me? So that is why it was brought to council, is just seeking some guidance, some help. Is the city willing to waive a permit fee or a tap-in fee? Is the city willing to notify officially the other two properties that there's an issue, that they're all illegally connected, because we would never allow for 3 properties to connect together in today's day and time, am I correct?
Absolutely.
So that is what they're asking for.
And unless there was a sewer easement that was signed by the 3 residents at the time, and it
When was that?
potentially, it potentially could have been recorded at the recorder's office.
But title would have found that when it was sold.
If they looked for it, sure.
Oh, they should.
They should. Should's the key word, if they did. But there's also been agreements that were signed and notarized that weren't recorded. And
Yeah.
we've had those presented, shared driveway agreements, things like that didn't get recorded. So.
Well, but I mean, fundamentally, aside from it not being connected the way we expect it to be, who knows what the standards were back then? And except for the fact that the tree,
Was the
what we
city.
assume caused is, but you're saying that wouldn't be the cause?
No.
The tree would never cause it to break.
But the city
Those are the
removed
mitigating
tree.
circumstances that might place the city in a position to help. And I don't think it's the city's responsibility to inform neighbors about their sewage problems on their property. Do we do that? I mean,
So
I guess it's a courtesy we could, but we have no
Would
authority.
one property be allowed to cap theirs off and tie in appropriately and never know, then the other 2 properties aren't notified and they're just left to,
So that happened on North Freedom Street, actually, a couple years ago. A resident on Fairview, I think it is, the very north end of Fairview, right where Lita, they were actually connected onto Freedom Street. Lateral ran around the house, they connected. The resident on Freedom Street had work done. Contractor didn't know, nobody knew. 6 months later, it was discovered. The resident said, nope, you can't come through my yard, and asked me what they should do. Not much I can tell them. I notified the resident, they were not interested, so the homeowner said, fine, I'll pay a contractor, and they tied in on Lita Street. They had the opportunity to file a lawsuit should they desire, but, it's a bad position to be put in.
Yeah.
But, so the neighbor was in my office and he was upset. He said, I hear what they're saying, but I don't have a problem.
Right.
My basement is not filling up. My sink and tub and toilet, they all are draining fine.
Do we know what the reason the tree was removed then?
I don't know why Kay took it down.
it was taken down.
Because that was irrelevant to the problem. That didn't cause the problem. That had nothing really to do with it. It's possible there's clay tile, and over the decades, it could have separated.
That was the tree that, from the email chain that I saw from the property management company, that tree was the issue of the root ball that had clogged the lateral in front of 207.
Yeah, that's the root ball, but it's the idea of the laterals.
So Kate had the tree removed.
The city council doesn't realize how many times I hear this on a weekly basis. How many, it's been no. No has always been the answer until it's proven it to be the city's issue.
Right.
And we have stepped in and paid once the resident has proved that it was our issue.
So
And I think it sets a bad precedent too, in a situation like this. If it's replicated throughout the city, then we're obligated to step in.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, that I've voiced, I have issues, I have clay
You've
tile.
had your own issues.
I have clay tile, I have that big tree out front, so I know the tree's digging, and I put, monthly, much to the water department's chagrin probably, the root killer down there that seems to work, but eventually we're gonna have to replace that lateral line, and I understand that. But the tree is the issue, and if that is the reasoning that the tree was removed, that's where my question really lies, is,
Years ago, we
is
had
that,
a bunch of trees removed. They went around when Don Kainrad was service director. And our tree, we had trees, like they were putting X's on all these trees around town. And it was just, they were wiping them out. So I don't know if that could have been when, because we had trees just up and taken down, like 3 of them. For no, we were unaware of it. Just one day I woke up and they were out cutting our trees. So that could have been when it was done too.
Well,
I know now they won't take trees down until we have,
No,
if it's
yeah.
on the city property, our arborist through the Shade Tree Commission will go out and assess the tree.
Thank
And
God.
if it's a healthy tree, it will not come down.
This tree was taken down last week.
So I would imagine the arborist
Yes.
designated it as a
It was
hazard.
because of the sewer lateral
Yeah,
issue.
we would
So, I mean,
have to see his report.
I just saw the chain of emails going back and forth, and the response to the property manager was, the arborist is going out in the tree, the contractor can be out this afternoon to take down the tree. I was forwarded these emails, and so that's why I saw them, but that's why I said, nobody's asking for the city to pay for these lines to be replaced or anything like that. And yes, I'm coming forward to bring you the background information because yes, I was involved. And because I did know the property and I knew the previous seller had Mays and Sons out and cameraed the lines and had reports done that were passed on to Mr. Finney last summer. And we had discussions about the property back then. The property sold, my job was done. I had nothing else to do with it, but the property management company still had my name and knew that I was on city council, so they had forwarded me some of the information, asking for direction and help. When it backed up the first time, and Mays and Sons said that the city needed to jet the main, I contacted Bob and Kay, and that was, 4 weeks ago when you were on vacation? And just said, hey, here's the report, here's what they said needs done. I just did anything I would do for anybody else. And the city and Mays and Sons had met out at the property numerous times since that point, and it was not the lateral coming from the subject property, and it was not the city's problem. It is the neighbor's issue, but that's where it was discovered that all 3 properties were tied together before the main. And with the blockage being at one property and a different property getting sewer backup, the questions started arising. And I just brought it forward, talked to Paul to put it on committee, because they're asking if the city can do anything to help.
If I could, if it's okay, Paul, if I could speak, I know it's just the committee, but is it okay?
No,
Is
I'd
it
like to
okay?
hear other comments as well, if you have something that's.
In this regard, I think that the problem of any of the homeowners would be fixed by a new lateral going in to the main. That would fix for that house. Regardless of where the problem's coming from, that's the solution, I believe. And this type of, what can we do? Can we do this? Can we help this? That's going to lead to negotiations on every person that needs to put a lateral in to replace. I just talked with somebody today about the same type of issue. The lateral's out, and it's the homeowner's responsibility to take it down to the main. So I think, you know, it's complicated. I needed a map to follow 207, 203, the tree, where the tree is and all that. But I think back to the central issue is that person that is in that house, that main, that lateral needs to be put in. It will fix their problem, and it doesn't make any difference what happens on the other 2 sides of the 2 houses. So just my thought on it.
I would agree with that 99% of the time, especially if it was somebody that was directly connected and had their own issue with their own lateral. This situation being that there's 3 properties basically sharing a lateral before it hits the main is the only reason why I brought it. For, you know, even if we were just able to waive a fee as a city to say, hey, we understand this, you have to understand this is your responsibility, but we understand that somewhere down the line, the city approved this to be tied in this way.
What's that fund called that the service director has up to $1,000 or $2,000 at her discretion?
Moral claim?
Moral claim?
That wouldn't even be a drop.
Well, I mean, there is a moral claim in the sense that there's a house that's had some problems with the sewer backing up. Look, I'm not saying that's a great alternative, but we have, and maybe that's a stretch of the intent of that.
The moral claim could be used if our sewer main backed up and, you know, years ago there was some reason a a soap ball, because soap, way it coagulates, and it floated up, blocked the sewer off. The city stepped in and paid
Well-
moral claim because of that, because it was looked at as though it was our responsibility, keep our line clear.
I'm only bringing it up because that fund, and I know it's not a lot of money,
No.
is that, the people who approach the service director can appeal for funds from that fund, and we don't hear, it's up to the service director at her discretion. I'm not saying she would agree to it, but I think, she might want to consider it. I don't know. You're asking for anything. I'm throwing things out there.
I'm just letting everybody know what's out there, and I'd be curious to know how many properties are inappropriately tied in still. I mean, like we said, this probably happened 80 to 100 years ago. None of us were here and individually accountable for it. Unfortunately, we're all here today, so we inherited it. And I would be curious to see how many properties we have on some of these older homes and areas, and
Hard to figure out.
it is hard to figure out, but I think that it's an infrastructure issue that we do need to think about, and if there's any way to help residents and property owners and,
So this-
things like that we can.
This unit is a rental property. The owners live in California.
Yeah, I could have told you that.
It is a purchased for-profit business, so let's keep that in mind. The other thing, the last thing I'll say is, this ordinance was included in the packet, 1044.04, Building Sewers and Connections. The very last letter, and City Council approved in 2014 states, ownership and all maintenance of building sewer, get the right focus here, as referred, my bifocal's not working, as referred to as sewer lateral are the responsibility of the property owner from the building to the public sanitary sewer, including the connection. Ordinance 2014-164. So they are responsible.
Yeah, I don't think there's a
But
question.
how can they be responsible
When it's-
if it goes to two other properties first? You can't have that individual owner responsible all the way to the connection.
Yes.
You have 3 units that all come in and tie together before it goes to the connection. So one unit can't be responsible for all 3 of those laterals.
Well, I would say you could look at it from the opposite perspective. It's the city's responsibility ends at the main, and so.
But
you
also
may-
to
I
ensure that
get what
they're
you're saying, but
connected.
is it the city's responsibility to sort out who's responsible on the other side
No,
of
but it is
that?
the city's responsibility to ensure that all residential properties are connected properly to today's standards. And
Well-
we know this is an issue, so we can tell one property, yes, go ahead and fix it. And yeah, they're saying, can you help me in any way? And we say, no. They go ahead and they fix it. But to turn a blind eye to the other 2 properties that we know are not connected properly, I think we do have a responsibility to at least notify them and say, hey,
Notifying them maybe, but I don't think we have a responsibility to lessen their burden by giving them something in this way.
And I didn't ask.
I do not agree with that.
We weren't asking for that. I asked for them to be notified.
Yeah, well, I think we've heard notified, help with this fee, do something with this. I'm just stating my opinion
with
on it
anything.
again.
But I guess the
that
question
This
would be-
comes up all the time, too. This multiple, something's wrong from 80 years ago. If we're going to go through and give extra help on each one of these situations that come in, we're going to be doing this a lot.
Yeah. I forgot my chain of thought.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Sorry. I'm scared.
Throw a backflow valve in the one that's flooding.
Oh, I know, so, but I get,
If it's base entry or first floor entry,
Dennis used to repair sewers.
but I don't see any reason why Bob couldn't notify them, but I guess the question is, what enforcement do we have? If they don't do the right thing, we're not gonna go after them, so. And don't they know now? I mean, just because the city tells them, they already know, each resident should know what's going on.
So number 1 in line knows, obviously, because it's backing up. So you, to your point, They're responsible for the lateral line, installing a new one. They shut that off, we cap it, and then number 2 is gonna be coming out, ready to come at us. So I think I'm still on the tree thing. I'd like to have a conversation
But
why the tree was removed, but that'll be, I think, later for I don't want to stick on that right now.
Was on,
Yeah,
she went for the holiday down to her daughter's in Columbus.
yeah, and I can talk to her later, yeah.
But the main reason is because the laterals don't go to the main separately.
Well,
That's where the whole problem is.
yeah. The same way, though. Lots of conversations, trees are causing issues.
But
If this is the reason, could be more conversations about, well, you did it here, can you do it for me here? That's the only thing. But I think, and maybe transitioning now out of this, if chapter 1070, if that really is a conversation, whether or not that should be for discussion on utilities, the point of sale inspections, whether that is should be reviewed for the meeting next month.
it could be reviewed next month, but I still believe something needs to be done.
I think it's finding
When-
out what the request is. I think that is it. Whether,
Well,
'cause we
there's
know that
no
there's-
official request.
And
It's can the city help, can the city notify officially notify the neighbors of the results? Can they, it's just kind of a plea for help, not necessarily monetary, not necessarily anything specific. It's, how can the city help us with this issue? Because obviously we're not the only ones. Because just like we said, as soon as they do the correct thing, then the neighbors are gonna be getting backed up. And probably then their neighbors.
And I think for us, it's control what we can control here, and if that is, that we review the ordinances and then talk about if there is a request coming from the homeowner. I think the communications I'm comfortable with pushing on council is with people about issues that we're taking on here. I don't want to be sending individual letters from council, so
No.
I understand where you're coming from. No. I understand. Sorry.
The sewers get so technical. that
Well,
I
it's a
rely
health
on-
and safety issue.
You know,
When
I
you
rely
have
on
raw
them.
sewage backing up into a house
It is.
once a week for 4 weeks,
We've had multiple residents that have had that.
and the amount of
it's
money that's
horrifying.
paid to clean that out and to get it sanitized, and every time have a company come out and verify that it's not their line and that there's nothing they can do to clear their line. They've had it jetted, they've had it snaked, they've had it cameraed, and, $500 each time gets quite expensive.
It can make somebody bankrupt and a homeowner, I know, very easily.
And yes, it's a rental, and it is for profit, but we have a lot of rentals, and if only we could wish that most of our landlords were that concerned with how their residents were living.
If you live in an older home, and I'm not a big fan of promoting the insurance, but we all get letters about insurance, and I did buy it on my water at my house. I live in a Century home, and I bought it for the sewer. Also, that was after I had to fix 10 feet of the sewer myself, which was $2,500 with that. And that worked for a while, but I bought the insurance. I didn't realize that I had it cleaned a couple of times due to tree roots. I called to ask them to send somebody out to check to see if there's something else was wrong with it. And they asked me, why did I hire somebody else that's covered under this, that will come out and camera it and we'll clean it. When we had the real heavy rains this past year, my basement flooded. It flooded to a certain level, and I believe that's the level where the sewer was at, the water out there. What happened here is the clay tile pipe moved, and before that, and the water was stormwater that then had a way back into the house. And they came out and looked at it, and it was all covered by the insurance.
Those insurances are fantastic for homeowners.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, tenants that pay their own gas and electric bill where you purchase the insurance through, they cannot get that coverage when they rent.
Yeah, I understand that, but in terms of other people, if you
Mhm.
have an
It's-
older home, you have to hold the insurance for, you can't just buy the insurance and then call them the next day
Right.
that you've got a problem, but I was surprised. I expected to get a hassle, and I did not.
Yeah, even on newer homes, it's worth it. My home was,
And-
5 years old when I had the storm drains collapse? I had a 12-foot diameter hole dug in my front yard, and all my storm drains had to be replaced on my dime.
Well, on this one, it was right at the main sewer where it popped up, but it was the lateral that was bad. The city checked it, and it was my responsibility. I had the insurance. If I didn't, I had to have paid for it. And unfortunately, right after we paved Freedom Street, I've got them out there digging it up to fix that sewer thing. I felt bad about that. But that is an option for people. If you live in a Century home, that could be money well spent.
Okay, then at this time I'll ask for a management update. Okay,
I'm good.
okay. Well, we'll keep this going then. Utilities will be finished at 7:17.
At 7:17, I will call to order the Planning Committee meeting. We have one single item on the agenda. I guarantee this meeting will take less than a minute. It is our biannual, it says annual. I think we did this biannually.
But we only pass it over.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we update our, see that big book over there? That Paul has in front, that's the ordinances, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're-
So when we make these changes, we have to send them to a company, they print out the pages, and Paul gets to exchange all those pages that they send.
It's fine.
So we're just updating our ordinances. That's what, this is housekeeping stuff. You okay moving this on?
Yes.
Okay. Then we will move it on for a vote. Is there a management update? No. Then it's 7:19. How did that happen? 2 minutes. I will adjourn the planning committee meeting at 7:19.
At 7:19, I'll bring the Community and Economic Development Committee to order. 1 minute, Rob. All we have on here is the Tax Incentive Review Committee minute approval. This is annually, the Turk meets to review the enterprise zones, the community reinvestment area, and the tax increment financing programs. These minutes only cover the enterprise zones. We had a similar situation last year, so I'm making a recommendation that we get minutes for approvals of the CRA and any TIFs that are available. I know there's a CRA program running.
We have 2 CRAs, we have the movie theater one, and we also have Sycamore Street too. So
Yes, that
Last
would be
year, we
one.
only had to get
The movie
movie
theater.
theater one, so we'll have to get both done. I don't think
I don't think we
any
have any
tips.
TIFs, but double check it.
Yes, we will.
So those do need to be included in the annual Turk meeting in minutes. So,
I've already been texting Mr. West about that. so,
Okay.
yeah.
so I recommend moving this forward, and before council, hopefully we can add those additional minutes in and get those reported to the state.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
So the Menards project is still ongoing.
Yeah.
Did they, because if I remember, they asked for some variances from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Have they expired now?
Mr. West did make contact with Menards since the day of this meeting. So after, we had the meeting on the 23rd, and he did have a subsequent conversation, and they're working on extending the dates out, and they're working on a revised agreement right now with Menards. So
But
Menards is still going forward. There was some question if they're going to go forward at all, and it sounds like they are, but it's going to be an extended date.
Okay. Because there was a note in here, Mr. West is having a hard time getting a hold of someone at Menards.
Well, he finally,
Oh, he did?
just last week was the
Okay.
first time we've been able to talk to somebody other than a real estate person, and he's gone.
Okay.
With that. Their problem is that the stores are not built that this is going to be developed to supply materials to. But they apparently still intend to do it, but they've stretched the time out.
Okay.
And I think you're right, Rob, some of that may have to be redone,
Yeah.
I believe.
It was voted at the time to continue it at the time of the meeting because we still have one more year on it. And they said next year when we go to it, they'll either have to get denied or amended at that time for the next meeting.
And if it's going to be amended, I would recommend having the amendment done prior to the Turk meeting.
But yes, it does.
Have it amended and approved.
I believe they're working on it already. I believe so.
Yeah. So if there's not anything else, we'll move this forward. Okay. With that, is there any management updates? And we will adjourn at 7:22.
Oh, you have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Robbie?
7:23, I'm going to keep it rolling. We have Public Health and Safety Committee that I'm going to call to order. This could be a little bit lengthy, but I'm going to try to keep it going as best as I can. First on the agenda, we have a purchase agreement for a 2025 ambulance. And I'm going to ask our fire chief to talk about this. He does have tentative type agreement at this time, but this is for a new ambulance. So I'll go ahead, and if any of you, I think everybody was on council the last time when we purchased an ambulance, it takes a great length of time. So it gets a little technical with the purchase agreement and locking into the price. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that over to our chief.
So a little over a year ago, we signed the purchase agreement for a new squad. The company has still not received a chassis for the squad. They're saying it's anywhere between a year, which we're already at, till about 18 months before we even get the chassis. Then once they get the chassis, you're looking at another year for them to manufacture it. So they're taking anywhere between 2.5 to upwards of 3 years to actually get another squad in place. So we're still waiting on the first one, but we're trying to get
Started on the next.
correct to get the next, because if we don't get it going now and we're waiting another 3 years, that squad will be roughly 12 years old by the time we receive it.
Chief, are we using squad and ambulance interchangeably?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we are.
Sorry,
Yes.
same term.
So the sooner that we get this passed on and we can sign, the sooner that we would be in line for another chassis for a second replacement of an ambulance, which they're guesstimating at this point 2.5 years.
Yeah, so the chief provided a purchase agreement, and the price is $302,000, $177,000. And it does say, quote, valid until April 28th. Well, it says
I'm
2/24.
sure I could extend that
But,
a little bit, but,
well, April 28th, 2024.
okay.
So it's interesting that you have an agreement or a quote. But anyway, I think the idea would be, if those on the committee are agreeable, that we pass this forward and then have a special meeting next Monday.
To have it.
Is that just with public health and safety, that information? Can we get it before next week?
Yeah,
He gave it
brought
to us
He
before
just
the
got it
meeting.
tonight,
Well,
so.
if we're asking for a special, we get it
Oh,
for
yeah.
next week.
Yeah, we
We'll
plan
have
on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Was that included in the budget for
That was
this
the big
year?
item that you
No.
mentioned.
So the one we have on order is already in my capital improvement. This one, we would have to ask for capital improvement going into 2025.
The next year. But you have to act on it now because
Right.
that's how far back that they are, so. And
And
again,
and what's the age of the ambulance we're replacing?
One is a 14, the other one's a 16. So the one that we would be replacing is a 2016. So theoretically, it'll be 9, 10 years old by the time we get a new ambulance.
And is that a standard replacement schedule, or are we going to be ahead of it?
Usually, we're way behind. Usually it's 7 years, so we're actually behind. Because of how long it's going to take them to get an ambulance.
yeah, we went, just like with the fire truck, that was a lengthy process as well. Unfortunately,
It was,
this.
what, 3 years?
Yeah,
The one ambulance that we have now is the first to be replaced, and we're a small city, 5.6 square miles, has over 70,000 miles on it.
yeah. I know our squad, our
So
calls are
it's,
high.
For a small radius that's, or a small area that's servicing, that's quite a bit of miles on an ambulance.
And our numbers have increased dramatically over the last few years, and especially even after COVID, the numbers have gone up quite a bit. So, yeah, we definitely get our wear and tear on our ambulances, and that's something we definitely want to keep up because the parts alone are hard to replace. So I have no problem myself moving this forward and going into a purchase agreement so that we're able to lock in the prices and start this lengthy process so that we're able to lock in at this price and not see the prices continually to go up. Matt and Rob, are you okay with this?
Yeah.
Is this who we purchased the last one through?
Yes, and it's state bid.
It's state
State,
bid, correct.
yeah.
Yes, it is state bid as well.
Yeah, I'm okay with absolutely.
Okay, and Chelsea, we'll make sure we'll pass that to you. So we'll have all the information. You will submit the tracking sheet to Chelsea, correct? Okay.
Correct. Now, that's for the squad, the load system, and the cop. It's not the radios, they have to go in it and everything. So the money that we would ask is probably gonna be about another 20,000 on top of that, because it has to have a siren, it has to have a light mark, and it has to have the radios put in.
Okay,
So that's just the squad, the load system, which is for the cop to go in electronically, and the power of the cop,
okay,
which is part of the price that he quoted us.
okay.
And we're gonna have to do a purchase order for this year if we go and order it then, right? We're gonna do a purchase order.
For this, yes.
We're not gonna pay for it, but we're gonna
Correct.
purchase order.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we will need to get the appropriation language in that as well then, because we'll have to encumber the money, even though we're not cutting a check for it.
Right.
So whenever we do the ordinance, I will make sure to get that in there.
Okay.
And where will you be encumbering the money from this year?
Well, it's the it'll be the fire CI, so it'll be the 553 fund and their section of it. There's a line for ambulance purchasing in there.
Was this ambulance that we're purchasing now coming out of that this year also?
That came out the last time.
Yeah, there's
We already
But we
did that
didn't
last year.
pay, we didn't pay it yet.
We didn't pay for it yet. There's a
It's
purchase.
still
This one won't pay
appropriated.
this
But you
year.
have to appropriate if you want to do a purchase
Right.
order.
Right.
So,
Right.
and the vendor will want a purchase order, I'm sure, to, lock it down.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think he asked for the purchase order until he located us a chassis. He did us
Okay.
that much. So, but yes, you're right.
At
Once
some
they
point.
locate us a chassis, they want the purchase order, otherwise they won't hold the chassis. We only have a certain amount of days before we can give, or that chassis be gone, we wait even longer.
So we should go and get it in the budget then? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Next item, the accepting, so we're gonna go ahead and move that forward, accepting the $16,000 for BWC grant award. Was that,
For the Lucas and the 2 stair chairs.
okay, wasn't that on last? Why are we getting this back on? I'm confused.
We put in to apply for it, now we were awarded it.
So we ended up
So
getting
actually
it.
got we have the funds coming, yes. it was a-
Okay, the last was we applied it, and now we received the funds from the grants, correct?
We're receiving them now, yes.
Okay, good.
It'd be nice in the future, you know, I think we were talking about this, Andrew, you know, like if we could apply
And
and
appropriate.
Sometimes
award.
Or
you get-
accept.
by the time
Yeah,
you
exactly,
get- you got your grant in,
Yeah.
they award you the money before we go through the whole legislation.
That's
to
what threw me
accept it.
off
So
with
now-
this.
Yeah.
I thought it was a typo.
And we did mention that this Semino, I think, as well, so I think,
Yeah, we're talking about itemizing everything in one approval.
Yeah,
So all
so-
of these, awards.
And then we
she can
also,
apply and accept in one fell swoop. But this one, it's already too late for that, so we might as well just do it, but, yeah.
so we also want to accept the $1,429 BWC grant as well.
Correct.
Okay, so we were awarded 2 grants from the fire department. I don't see a problem with us not accepting that.
No.
Congrats.
Yes.
Thanks.
Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another successful money that you guys have brought into the department. I appreciate it, and so does the city taxpayers. A donation for $100 for the police department for the K-9 fund. This is Chief Wallace. Accepting there's no match with this. And it's for our dog. Do we want to name the donor, or is it anonymous?
It's adult probation.
Adult probation. Okay, so that's, thank you, adult probation, and just accepting the $100 for our K-9 fund. Are you okay with moving that forward?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Here we go with another $200 donation to our police department with a $400 additionally pledged donation. And it looks like this also, Chief Wallace was from the last person who donated at our last meeting, and this is more money on top of the money we received last month?
Yeah, his goal was to donate $800, so he's doing it in installments.
Good for him.
Nice.
Thank you. All right, so another $200 to take the money and accept it and move it to our police?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move that forward. And again, thank you to, is it okay to name his name? Or
Yeah.
Mr. Seegerst? We do appreciate your donation, so thank you so much. The last item on the agenda is,
We have a couple more additions too.
where did that
Well, just the striker's already on our regular meeting, and this is a pickup truck, right?
Correct.
Oh, it's not, I don't see.
No, they weren't on the agenda.
Okay, sorry, this
That's
was not
okay.
on here,
That's
so.
all right.
All right, go ahead, I'll let you explain it then. I do have a
All right.
couple items on here that were not brought to me, so.
So the striker is a maintenance agreement for the donated Lucas and the donated Life Pack 15 that
Which was
given to
talked
us
about.
last month.
Okay, we had talked about that.
It's also incorporating the Lucas that we were awarded out of the BWC grant, of which that $16,000 that we're accepting was purchased from.
Stryker was, this was the contract that
Yeah,
you
so
were
the-
questioning.
So we currently have, prior to this agreement, we had 2 Lucases and 2 Life Pack 15s on contract for maintenance. Since we were awarded one off of a grant, one off of donation, and a Life Pack off of donation, we have to have another maintenance agreement. So this maintenance agreement that I submitted to you guys now is the contract or maintenance agreement for a 5-year deal for those pieces of equipment.
And it looks like we are getting a 15% discount.
Correct.
Is that because we have the multiple? Did they say why?
Wasn't there,
It's from
wasn't there an
negotiation. How's that sound?
wasn't there an existing agreement or something like that?
I'm sorry?
Wasn't there an existing agreement?
Yes.
That-
Yeah.
So theoretically, we have 2 maintenance agreements. They won't combine them all into 2027. So what they said is they can't open up a contract and change it and add to it.
Oh.
But, so their policy is that, and they're the only game in town, that we have to have an additional
Okay.
maintenance agreement contract. So therefore, we're gonna have 2 contracts, but they both expire on the same date. So in 2027, when this comes to an end,
We
we'll
can
be
put
able
them all
to merge them all
together.
together.
And this is because we unexpectedly, but yet gratefully, received that donation.
And was awarded.
And awarded.
A grant.
Great, okay. All right, and the amount for this is the 19,320 for 5 years.
So it's 5 payments, which is just under 4,000 a year.
Yeah, $3,864.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, awesome.
And so that would be put on the special.
That's also
On
gonna be
Monday.
then put on the special
Yeah.
with,
Do you have a copy of that?
The last one is a contract or quote, a price quote. So last year, we put in for capital improvements for a new pickup truck to replace our 17-year-old pickup truck. So the city gave us $60,000, appropriated $60,000 in capital for that truck. The quote that you have there is at 56. So we're coming in under, the thing that I spoke to the mayor about is our current pickup truck, even being as old as it is, the dealership's willing to give us $10,000 trade-in. So that $10,000, we could use this 2 different ways. We could use it to put in, the 56 is just a truck. There's no light bar, there's no radios, no stickering on it. So that would pay for that. The conversation that we had in the department head meeting was, since the truck still has a value to it, the service department actually has a strong interest in it. So they're asking, can they be awarded that pickup truck? But then I would have to be asking for more money in capital to finish getting the new truck built. Whatever way you guys want to go.
so.
Can the service department assist out of their
I was just gonna
capital to help pay for your,
That's up to them. I can't, all I can tell you is if I don't receive the money that way, I can take the pickup truck to the Ford dealership and they'll give me $10,000 off of the $56,000 price of that, which would give me more money to finish doing what I need to do for the truck.
What is the actual Blue Book value of that pickup truck, Brian?
Well, retail is probably somewhere around 14,000, but when you're going wholesale or trying to sell it on your own, somewhere around $10,000 to $11,000.
Because I know
They're gonna
used
make a markup
vehicles and
on it.
trucks, you know, are holding a higher value.
They're not giving us a bad trade, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
So, but if we find that it has more value to the service department and Bobby Linedecker really wants it, then why not? The upkeep on it's good. It's just a 17-year-old truck that's starting to Ohio weather. But he says he can probably give, a handful of years out of it anyways. And it's cheaper for him to get a handful of years out of that than buying another truck on his own. We know the history of it. He's done half the maintenance.
Right.
Yeah, what's the mileage on it, Chief?
42,000,
42?
That's great.
Yeah.
unlike an ambulance.
Yeah, I think it would be in the right department. They would use it, but they also will keep it up.
Yeah, my only question would be, is there any funds available in the street department to offset what the fire department were to need?
I mean, generally, those two are they're both paid out of the same fund. They're both paid out of the 553
They're still in the same.
capital improvement fund. It's just they're in different sections, but it's gonna have the same effect on the
budget.
the budget and, the balance, so.
Well, I'm okay keeping it in the city. I mean, it's gonna, I think, have more of a value in the city.
I think so too.
Yeah, we try to ask those questions at department head meetings and see.
But the one who has to really determine the value would be the person taking it, and that's Bobby, and he finds the value to be there, and he has no problem with it. I don't want to give him something that he doesn't want, he's force-fed it. He actually came to us and says, I want your truck.
It's gonna be less expensive to outfit the new truck than to purchase a new one.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right, or at least defer.
What's the time of arrival?
They're saying about 6 months once we sign. Once we order it, it'll be about 6 months, so they should have that truck by fall.
Okay, all right, I'm okay moving that forward then. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, and that two on the special?
Yeah, yes.
This is on the special too.
Do you have that one?
Here, Chelsea.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll have 3 on the special for public health and safety, all from you.
Yes.
And you'll make sure she gets all of her
Yes.
information
Well,
before you
I
leave.
didn't mean to blindside anybody, but everybody finally got back to me today after weeks and weeks and weeks of trying trying to get everything in play.
That's how it works.
It's- I understand.
So I struck that iron's hard.
Yeah, thank you. All right, last item on my agenda, which we have Dan Rose? Don? Dan? What? Did I say that wrong? Don.
You were
I'm
close.
sorry. He is here to assist with this. If you, am I correct? You're here to assist, so if you want to come up here?
Where do you want?
Right up there is fine. Yeah. You and Rob had conversation.
Yeah, we met
Oh, no.
a couple weeks ago.
That's never a good start.
Yeah, this follows up, so we have this ordinance nuisance abatement. Sometimes we call it chronic nuisance, so that's not the official title. But what we discovered was, in order for something to be considered a nuisance, and basically that allows us to fine the resident for whatever the infraction is, and then attach it to their taxes. So it's kind of a shortcut to get them to get their attention, basically.
Correct.
And an easier way to collect. But when we looked at that ordinance, and it's 686, in 03, 686-03, under definitions, H defines what a nuisance or nuisance event is, and in order to use this chapter, you have to have it defined. And so what Don did was identify, is it 8 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 new nuisance events, and he's defined them according to the structure that was already in that chapter.
So he's added additional to
In-
what was originally
Yes.
had.
So that now he can go declare certain things a nuisance and have hopefully better response from residents. But you can explain if you want what those
So-
additions are.
Yeah, most of them were having to do with police and fire calls, basically, or police calls mostly.
Like an example, okay, 16, he has any harboring and raising a non-domesticated animals violations under chapter 618.23 or a violation of any law of this state is substantially similar to any of its sections, is an example.
The wording comes from 15 and up, you know,
Yeah.
he uses basically that same wording, so.
There's 17 is deposit or littering violations. The next one is unsheltered storage of junk, vehicles, machinery, equipment violations under chapter 660.06. Any open lot storage of unregistered vehicles. That's another big one that I do see in our city that I think is causing, I mean, all of these are great that you've hit on. Any setting out of containers and large items violations. Any supplementary regulations violations under chapter 1278. Maintenance violation under fences, walls, and hedges. Any exterior requirements and violations under chapter 1488. So these are ones that he wants to add to the original nuisance. I know this is one too that I was here when this was created, and as we're going along, this is one that is going to need tweaked and changed, and we're finding out, I think, some things you can't do or it makes it harder to do. But when it was created, one of the big things was, especially with rental properties, we would go out and go out and go out and nothing would happen. So after so many times of, our property maintenance going out, they start getting fined after, we talked and counseled with them and gave them opportunities, then we start assessing. And then that seemed to really start working on some of them. Don, the ones that you've touched on, what have you seen that got you to this point?
Well, I think unregistered vehicle is one. It's been sitting in their driveway 5 years, it's got flat tires. They haven't tried to fix it, haven't done anything with it, it's sitting there. So I give them a letter, 30 days, give them a second letter, 30 days, and a final letter, 30 days.
So that's 3 months has gone by and it's still sitting there, they haven't touched it. Then I sent him a letter from Semino, then then I get action, because all of a sudden it's gonna cost them money. So if I can threaten him with a $250 fine right off the bat, saying, hey, if this goes 3 times, it's gonna be $250. So I think that would get action. They could put that money towards fixing the vehicles. You know? It's gonna cost you $250, so you might as well do it now. So that would, you know, and I bet we've gotten rid of 10 vehicles that have been sitting around the city, you know, in the last few months, you know, because we've pestered them enough that they take care of it. But some people don't. They just sit there.
There's many more that need to go.
Yeah, well, is there anything you want to say, Rob, as far as with your,
Well, most of these, if not all these things that have been added, do have their own penalties in our code. But like we were talking with trash can placement, they can be defined as a misdemeanor requiring a court visit. And as we know, it doesn't always go so well and can really string things out.
I've been trying to get in court over North Street for, it's been a year, and they've already been in court and they're in contempt. But getting back in court has been a struggle over
Right.
the last year.
So this is a way to sort of shortcut that problem, and having the ability to attach these fines to a tax, the property tax, without having to go through courts, makes enforcement a lot easier. And yeah, you know, we talked about a lot of these different issues. We're doing a lot more enforcement due to Don and Mike. I don't know, do you have any other inspectors? You have 2 full-time? Yeah, and they're doing a real good job. But, you know, when we find, you know, how council can help, you know, tweak our code to make it easier for you to do the job you do, then I think we need to take advantage of that
Absolutely.
opportunity, so.
that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you for all your efforts. I know they seem like it's a thankless job, but just remember, nothing good comes easy, I guess. You know, you guys are out there and plugging away, and it's a lot of work, so thank you.
I got the best boss in the world, so.
How much did you have to know?
Okay, so I am good with moving this forward out of committee, and please keep us updated on anything else you're finding. Like I said, always happy to here to help, and that's what we're here to do. Matt, are you okay with this?
Yeah, absolutely, I love it.
Move it forward.
Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and move this forward. I know this isn't on the agenda, but I just want to say a huge thank you to our water department and our water treatment department, our water office, our dispatchers. I don't know, I know a lot of us, our phones were extremely busy. I know, I'm hoping maybe the mayor will have an update on this, possibly, on where we are, but I know our water is much clearer. I know the water billing department received in one day, over 300 phone calls about the water. I know our water treatment, our water plant, the guy who runs it, Dan Mounts, got no sleep. I mean, he was out there all day, all night, and these guys have been working around the clock. They took this very seriously. A lot of people don't realize with the lake change, with the weather, we had a mild winter, and believe it or not, these temperatures do affect the lake. That's a mass body of water out there. And without getting that frozen temperature, you know, that can really change the way the chemicals and the lake and the chemistry, all of that. I am not an expert in it, but I do trust our people. I think we have some of the best people that are dedicated. And, you know, I took offense to a lot of the comments that were on Facebook of people slamming our water because, you know, we do have good quality water, and that is a huge asset to our community that I don't think people recognize or understand the work that goes behind that. You know, water's water, but, you know, we have dedicated staff that are diligently working on our water, and the administration. I'm going to turn it over to the mayor if there's any updates on the water, because I do know that my bathtub does not look like West Branch, so that's a good sign, because over the weekend, I filled up the bathtub and I thought, oh, wow, this kind of looks like West Branch, so,
Get a
maybe I
shower.
won't take a hot bath with
Get in the
Epsom salt.
shower and you won't notice.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, Mayor, is there any updates that maybe to provide
Yes,
where we are?
first of all, you've said about everything I was going to say.
Oh,
So.
great minds think alike.
With that. But that is a real asset for the city of Ravenna, the lake out there. Both on the west part of the country and the east part of the country, people are starting to think it over about where they're living. And water is a problem in some of these places, and we have people that are moving back. And where we live, we're fortunate we have a lot of water when you take Lake Erie into account and all the other lakes and the wells that a lot of the people use. Our folks did an excellent job on this. None of us ever likes to have anything to deal with the water. Our expectations are very high with the people we hire and the maintenance and preparing that. And it's a huge responsibility. The levels that were causing a problem never got to the point that they would merit any Herculean effort on it. They got on it right away and worked on it. They said it would take about a week to clear up. Mine is just like yours. It's pretty well cleared up at this time. And they have daily reported to me about how much it's gone down, and they caught it quick enough they were able to drop it quickly with that. So we're very proud of the water supply. You do know that the lake is open to Ravenna residents and people that don't live in Ravenna. They have to pay a little more, but it opened for fishing the 1st of April. This is an ongoing thing that we're having an assessment done on our wastewater treatment plant to have experts come in with that and give it a once-over to see what we need to do further in terms of maintenance there. But the crews that we have in both places just do an excellent job of keeping things clean and operating. So I'm grateful for that, very grateful.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? It's 7:53. I'm ending public health and safety. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.